There we go.
That was not bad.
Still an 8.5.
Oh my gosh. It was a little more crisp. Like it wasn't carrying quite so much. I don't know.
Okay, 8.
All right. Good job, Kurt. Johnny.
Yes, sir.
What's up, dude?
Just living the dream every single day.
What is would you rather fly a helicopter or an airplane?
If I had my license?
Yeah. When you get your license.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If it was only I could have one and that's it, it'd be an airplane.
Interesting. Okay.
For more personal reasons.
Okay.
Strictly business.
We got to go somewhere.
Yeah, strictly business reasons, helicopter all day long.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And the RFK files have now been released.
JFK files.
JFK. Yes, sorry, JFK. RFK.
I think it might have been. It was all the RFK too.
And Martin Luther King?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
I haven't dug into it.
I haven't either.
I can't talk about that one.
I haven't seen any exploding headlines, so maybe they just... It's probably the file, but blacked out. That's probably just what it is.
Probably. But, hey, moving forward.
Moving forward. That's what we try to do. Johnny, what is... Has there been anything that's been on your mind? No, it's... Among all the things that are on your mind, what's one that you're like, this is pretty relatable? Or is there one that you like, farmers in 25? I mean, we talked about grain markets and that. We talked about fertility. We talked about soil. We talked about plants. And then we're coming into a new year.
Yeah.
Whole new game plan. Whole new. I shouldn't say game plan. I'd say a lot of farmers probably have different twist on game plan.
Yeah. Well, and maybe final. How I like to tell my customers, we're finalizing Plan A. Yeah. I mean, that's the honest truth.
That is exactly what it is.
I always when I'm giving farmers these plans, we talk about it, and I said, and don't worry. If this isn't in the picture, we can do X, Y, and Z. So I try to have
a couple
plan
options.
B, C, and D already thought about before we walk into that scenario.
Yeah.
So common thing, we got cattle, or my neck of the woods are manure.
Okay? Oh, sure.
Every year, we know we need to get it done, but it is a logistical headache because to bring the ROI closer, we're doing our own trucking of that manure. Okay, if you do everything hired out, it can become an expensive input. Even though I would argue, over a 5-year span, you're getting more dollar amount for. Or the dollar amount of nutrients you're getting for that manure application is substantially higher. But at the end of the day, it's a big upfront cost. You know?
Yes.
So
you have to view it as amortizing it out.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. But with that being said, I mean, we can always plan on a third of my acres are going to get covered, or half of my acres, or maybe I'm going to do it on the whole operation. And then you get to this time of year and maybe it's going to be a field. Maybe, or I'm gonna try to get those 2 quarters done. But if not, just be ready. Okay. And what I mean by that is already know what the next move is. Try to be 2 steps ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we're not talking about anything new here. I mean, but it's just a good reminder.
At the end of the day, we're putting just seed in the ground.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that having that plan B and you don't have to make a decision what plan B is, but think about it.
Sure.
So when that initial shock or that initial turn that it's not going the way you planned, you don't spend half a day being frustrated because it didn't go that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're spending a half a day already trying to figure out the answer.
That's probably something I've learned the most from guys out west, is that they are the most adaptable farmer group I have met so far.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, there's a lot of guys out there, they don't pre-buy seed.
No.
They're like, why would I? I don't know if it's a milo year or if it's a corn year or if I'm going to try to put some beans. They don't know.
Yep.
If it's going to... Right now, they're literally waiting to see if they get any winter precipitation.
Yep.
if they don't, is the wheat going to die? So then what are they going to follow the wheat with? Are they going to follow it? And then, what's the price of corn and what's the price of milo? What's the local feed bids? I mean, It would be maybe I'm sure there's operations that pre-buy seed, of course, but when you have that many factors, particularly when weather is your driving factor, if you're under a pivot, sure, but man, dry land farming in the West, holy cow,
yeah.
Over here, I know what's going to go to corn. I know what's going to go to beans. If we have a shift, it's going to be a small.
Yeah.
It's not going to change my seed order that I've already, given to Heathman. So I don't know. It's one of those things. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, it's so unique because
I want to do 100 acres a year. I would love to do 100 acres a year of manure and humic, and then follow it with a cover crop, and then plant into it. I'd love to get that in my operation. That's something I want to talk to you about. And we've got a friend and customer that uses a lot of pelletized gypsum, and I want to better understand, like around here, guys have run lime forever. Problem is once we started asking the right questions, it's high mag lime, and we're fighting high mag soils. So now it shouldn't surprise me that the local lime is high mag, parent material,
Amen, brother.
And so why should I'm not surprised now, but now I know a friend of mine owns a quarry. So it's one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, high mag. Now, is that a commodity somewhere else where someone needs mag? Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. So it's just finding what fits where. So I need calcium.
Yep.
I need, sulfur. I benefits from sulfur. And so we've worked together enough. Do you think that gypsum, the pelletized gyp, would be a beneficial thing in my operation? You've seen some of my soil tests. You've seen my soil types. I've got go from black mucky to loose kind of loamy soil.
So, kind of talking about,
because part of me is like, oh, I want to go throw, kind of that yield chasing feel that hits in you, like, oh, let's go do it.
Yep. So maybe just to take a step back, you talk about gypsum, that just bigger things, calcium. Okay.
Yeah.
And calcium's such a interesting nutrient. And the reason why it's interesting too, you go into studies, it's the trucker of all minerals into the plant. Most minerals, let's put it that way. And then also, it's hard to work with in a liquid form because it doesn't play nice. Okay.
So I found that out one time.
Well, a lot of people know the importance of calcium, but logistically, how do you make it happen too?
Sure.
But on the same token, so when I think of calcium, I think of three things. Okay. We got calcium for pH.
Okay.
Calcium for soil structure. And then you got plant food calcium.
Okay.
So
this is great.
Yeah. You asked that one question, and I'm kind of sitting there saying, I'm going to have to rewind back because this is hitting my head and we need to talk about this part.
Yeah.
So first off, pH. It's very commonly printed, 6 to 6.5 or 6 to 7 pH. You're in the ballpark.
pH stands for percent hydrogen.
Yes.
That was something. If someone had asked me that a couple of years, what's pH stand for? I couldn't have said percent hydrogen.
Yeah.
Basic. That's like, wow. And then the correlation. We're going to stick to that.
You're good.
But the correlation between pH, soil pH, and hydrogen.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of farmers don't understand that. Like, wait a minute, my soil pH is affected by hydrogen. Yes. But we're going to talk about soil and calcium.
Yes.
And pH.
Yes. So if calcium is at right levels and stuff is releasing, your pH should be in that range. Okay. But you could also use calcium if you're in a very low environment. You can use calcium to bring your pH up. Okay. So I see that as the pH soil solution. When water hits the soil, what environment is it in? Calcium plays a role in that. Calcium plays a role in structure as well. And that's where you get to the Kinsey's base saturation, Albrecht theories, going with, base saturations of, I would say 65 to 75. I mean, sweet spot, every lab's going to be slightly different. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's some labs that I feel comfortable doing a 65 and moving forward. There's some labs I'm like, we need it at a 70 to get the response we want to. Okay, but you can also go too high too.
Sure.
But and that's for soil structure. Okay, so base saturation calcium for sure above 60. Like, period. Okay. Sure, above that is what you want to strive for and what you want to move towards.
When you say soil structure, can we paint a picture of what we're looking for? I mean, is there like our buddy up north, he swears that after running pelletized gypsum in carbons in his program for a number of years, he can pull a 24-row strip till bar substantially easier through his ground. Like, doesn't need to buy a bigger tractor.
Yep.
And he gives all that credit to the gypsum and humics.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's what we're talking about, and that's what it ties into mag too for base saturations. So like I said, calcium, which is say 68%, magnesium, I mean, preferably around that 12 range. If you're in really sandy soil, you can be more of that 17 range. But that's just flocculation of the soil. Mm-hmm. Okay. So if you have soil that feels like a pillow when you're walking through it, okay, it's going to be easier to pull a strip till bar through.
Yeah.
Okay.
So would that be your higher calcium grounds? Probably.
Well, I would say when things are in balance and nature is moving, okay, because carbon and calcium is going to control that the most. Okay. Now, going to what he's seeing with the gypsum application. Mm-hmm. Okay. So he's replacing calcium. If you have a higher mag soil and or a higher K soil, calcium is bigger. So when you apply that sulfur, okay, the sulfur is going to help displace or tie onto the excess mag or excess K. And this is like perfect scenario. I mean, if your parent material is high mag, it's just going to keep breaking off more mag for you. Just a heads up. Okay. But doing those rates of calcium and sulfur, okay, is you're helping soil structure there with gypsum. Okay. Calcium helps flocculate. Then also you're pulling up some of that available mag that would make it tight, breaking that away too.
Sure.
Okay. Also, if it's well-drained soils, okay, so you can wash that mag out of there. Or if you're overly abundant in potassium. You got to remember, all these cations, definitely when the plant can see it, okay, those base saturations are key because it gives each nutrient an equal opportunity to get into the plant as well, to a point.
Sure.
So that's where you get your plant structure and why you're seeing the gypsum have its effects. It's what the sulfur is doing, pulling out what you don't need per se and replacing it with calcium on that soil colloid. And that's why between that and adding humics to get your biology going, I agree with them. I bet you can see those kind of results with pulling a strip till and not having as much issues.
Sure.
Per se.
So that's calcium for soil structure.
Yep. Then you have plant food calcium. Okay. The trucker nutrients getting into the plant. This is where you'd get that knowledge from a Haney test.
Okay.
Things that I have seen in my experience is when we get that Haney test, let's say above 700, where I saw amazing things happen was at 900.
Okay.
Our nitrogen efficiency, phosphorus efficiency, potassium efficiency, like skyrockets. And I've seen stuff that's been maybe borderline, quote unquote, balance according to the Albrecht or Kinsley system with a Haney test with a higher Haney calcium score, and magic things happen. I mean, stuff that maybe applying, maybe it's 0.5 pounds of nitrogen or 0.3 and getting results that it was blowing my mind. Yeah. It was an organic farm and we applied, I want to say it was cover crop too, had legumes, a little bit of manure, but if you would do your nitrogen calculator, okay, based off the cover crops, the manure, and then we had some fish hydrolysis too. If you would have done it by the calculator, it would have had 100 pounds Okay. What they actually applied, like fish hydrolysis, say side, was like 10 to 15 pounds. Okay. And we were bringing out 230, 240 corn on it.
Organic corn? Whoa.
Organic corn. Organic white corn. So that's where, and the only correlation I could get to, what made their field, I mean, there's a lot of rabbit holes we can dig down in that one. But if I was just taking data, and I wouldn't know if it was organic or not, looking at soil samples, the only thing I could pinpoint, looking at two pieces of paper differently, that was significantly different, was Haney extract available calcium.
Okay.
That was the only difference. I could have made arguments. I had a conventional field doing XYZ, XYZ. Now, we can go, I mean, there's opinions out there too about, I mean, you get to strong regen, strong organic side, about other things that could be going on. Okay. I'm not going to discredit that.
Sure.
Okay. But
when
on
you're
the same
holding up
token,
two pieces of paper,
if I'm
what's
holding
the
two
difference?
papers of paper, yeah, like what is the data telling me?
Yeah.
The data alone was telling me that factor.
Sure.
So that's where I started really digging into like, crap. This is why I liked getting that information, getting that Haney test, is like, what is going on with calcium? How available is it in the solution for the plant to take up?
Sure.
Okay. Because, I mean, a common little phrase, I mean, the trucker of all nutrients, I mean, calcium, a lot of people say that. Then also borons at the steering wheel. Okay. So those two are very important. But one thing that's nice about gypsum, you will get some reaction of having that as plant food calcium too, as it breaks down initially.
Okay.
Pelletized lime, you could do that too for plant food.
Sure.
But to fix structure and to fix pH, it's more of a Band-Aid. It's not going to be a long-term approach. So
pelletized gypsum wouldn't be a fix?
It's going to help you with structure because of the sulfur-calcium mix.
Okay, but not pelletized lime.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Two different things here. Yeah, obviously two different things, but...
Yeah, so gypsum I see as a soil conditioner. It also does a good job of giving some plant food. But to change pH is not the answer.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
yeah. If you're looking
what
for
are you
pH,
trying to do with calcium?
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to get across.
Sure.
Okay? If you're applying ag line because you want more plant food calcium, like a rock of calcium carbonate, that is a very long-term play. And that's probably not, you're not going to see that. Okay? There's liquids out there. I mean, there's liquid calcium sources that you can spray on the top that you could get that fix. But just know that if you're applying ag line today to help your plant food calcium, it's just not the best match to make that happen.
Got it.
Okay? I don't see gypsum as the best match for a pH buffer.
Sure.
Right? I also don't see calcium chloride being a structure solution or a pH solution.
Potash.
Calcium chloride.
Sorry. Why did I think potassium?
Because I said chloride.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Discredit what I just said.
Yeah.
Calcium chloride, not potassium chloride.
But so conditioning that soil and you putting that sulfur through the profile, there's chemical reactions that are going to happen no matter what. I mean, no matter what fertilizer you put on, there's going to be reactions that happen.
Yeah.
I think what they're seeing in that situation is that sulfur's helping breaking things off the soil colloid, which then they're getting the rain to put it into solution, which the plant's able to absorb then.
Sure.
Which is great.
Yeah.
I mean, he's doing the things that I think people need to try on their farm to see if it makes a difference.
Got it.
I think there's an opportunity there to help out, that one spot that's never produced something for the past 10 years. I think that's an opportunity to get a soil sample there, see if we need some gypsum at a higher rate, see if we need humic acid to help buff that soil, bring it back to life.
Okay, so to further the soil side, say you've got a pH of 5.8, but your buffer pH is, say, a 6.7.
Okay.
Assuming that's possible. I think I've got tests.
Yeah, I've seen,
How should we read that test? Should we go off of 6 point? Now, we've talked about a plant root exudate can change the pH in the root zone. So do we go in, I'm looking at my field. Okay, I've got a pH of 5.8. and my buffer is 6.8. Let's just say that. Do I treat the field based off the 5.8, or do I treat the field based off the 6.8? Because if my field is a 6.8, originally, is my application still necessary, needed? How do I read that? How do I make a decision on my farm based on pH and buffer pH?
So let's talk about buffer pH.
Okay, please.
And how I see it.
Yeah.
So buffer pH is how easy is it to change the problem,
Okay.
is what buffer pH is. So like I could have a pH of a 5.5, but if the buffer pH is 7, that means I don't need to apply a lot and it's going to change fast. The closer you are to 7, the easier and faster it will change.
Got it.
So where they utilize buffer pH is helping you with your bulk lime applications.
Okay.
Okay.
How much can we move the needle type thing?
Well, and how fast you move the needle.
Okay.
Okay, because a 2 tons of lime on sand is totally different than 2 tons on clay.
Okay.
So that buffer pH tells you how many spots on the parking lot are willing to fit calcium.
Yeah.
You know, so if you have let's just say a 5 pH soil and your buffer pH is 6.4, it's going to be a big bill according to general lime recommendations to get that number up.
Gotcha.
So then, like in that situation, you start thinking to yourself, okay, so how can I manipulate maybe a band of calcium to make sure it has enough plant food? I know my pH is not there. But those are ways that you would start looking at. It goes back to ROI. Okay. But now if I see somebody that has a 5.8 pH and their buffer pH is a 6.8 or a 6.9. So what that tells me is, number one, their pH is a little low.
Yeah.
Their buffer pH tells me this is easy to change. We can do ag lime and probably see some good benefits here. You know, so that's how I see buffer pH. It's more of it's just a tool to tell you how easy it is to change. And the closer to 7 it is, the easier it is to change.
Gotcha.
You shouldn't see a buffer pH above 7.
Okay.
Shouldn't. And also, they might not even do a buffer pH if it's an alkaline soil, which they shouldn't.
Okay.
So,
Why?
Because it's really used to help bring acidity to more alkaline.
Okay.
Is the
raise,
measurement. Yeah.
Not lower.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen. Now, granted, I tend to. My soils are lower pHs. I've never seen a pH over 7.2 on my farm.
Yeah. Most people would say you're very lucky.
Yeah.
Because there's some areas.
I know that. They've never seen pHs that low.
Yeah.
But, comes with a whole different sets of problems.
Yes.
I fight a whole different set of problems than a guy that has 8 pHs.
Yep.
In regards to nutrient availability and movement and soil structure.
Yeah, I mean, your practice has changed considerably. I mean,
Sure.
those people that are at, 7.5, 8, they're cussing calcium
Okay.
at times.
Because it's too much calcium.
Yeah.
Got it.
I mean, you can still raise a pretty decent crop all the way up to like 85 base saturation.
Okay.
But just know that when you're applying FOS and you're putting MAP over the top helps because the pH of MAP's like 2.5, 3. It's
Okay.
low. It's going to help do some adjustments there. But just know there's a lot of calcium there to tie up that FOS too.
Okay.
Okay, so...
And not get it in the plant.
And not get it in the plant. And that's where you got to rely on biology to get things going.
Sure.
Okay? Because I had like one soil test for a gentleman south of where I live in Loop City. His Olsen test, okay, which Olsen's usually used for higher pHs. It just has a better or more accuracy or more pinpoint according to the Braze or Malix once you get above 7 pH.
Okay.
So that's why they do that one. So it was like at 7.5 and it was reading 6 parts per million. Okay. That was telling me we got to apply a lot of FOS in this situation just to meet the plant's needs. Mm-hmm. Then I got a Haney test. It had 50 parts per million FOS.
Plenty of FOS.
Plenty of FOS.
Wow.
It just tells you that, and like I told him, like, kudos to him. He's a big, like, doing his own compost teas, adding fulvics and humics, doing a lot of cover crops. And it's just saying, because I saw his numbers from 2 years ago to now. Mm-hmm. And I'm just saying, here is data, here is evidence that his hard work, the time he's put in, he's seeing it on a piece of paper.
Sure.
I mean, he was seeing visuals. He was seeing great things with like humics on iron chlorosis. He was seeing those things, right?
Yeah.
He knew it was moving him in the right direction.
Yeah.
To have a piece of paper that I could say I could take the same farm, same spot.
All right, guys, just want to take a quick second and say, if you haven't checked out our website, go ahead and do so. On there, we have the newsletter, merch, distributor list,
product list,
blogs, links to podcasts. It's all on there. Yes, I did write it on my hand, so I remembered all of it. Anyway, it's there. Links in the description. Check it out. Right.
You can see the difference.
So I don't do near as much grid sampling as I used to. If I take over a piece of ground, or say the landowner wants to, I got some landowners, man, they don't, no added cost. Farm it as cheap as you can. I would just want my check. I think if everyone is real with themselves, about every farmer probably has a landowner that's like that.
Yep.
You know, maybe they can't afford it. You know, maybe they have a very small budget just to live on.
Yeah.
And they're like, dude, added cost is a huge risk.
Yep.
And then you have landowners who, you know, I like what you're doing. I believe in your work. You go ahead and go for it. I trust you. Mm-hmm. And so, trying to remember where I was going with that. Now I'm like, my brain starts to think about the relationship side there. Grid sampling. So freeing up dollars. What's your range to work in? So say I take over a piece of ground or buy a piece of land, I'll grid sample it on 2.5 acre grids. Honestly, that's more to scratch my curiosity itch, probably more than anything first, because I really wonder.
That's when you would do grids, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's what I've done. That's kind of my standard process now. And I've done, if I wanted to really, like the cabin over here, the one I really hone in on, I've done 1 acre grids. And that's interesting to watch.
Yeah.
You know, obviously it costs a lot more, but I did it one time to find that out. So say I've got a 50 acre field, 2.5 acre grids, but it starts to tell me what are we working with here? We're working with here. And then I'll pull 2 or 3 Haneys. I try to pull a Haney every 25 acres. So I got a 100 acre field, I'll pull 4. If it's a square, 1, 2, 3, 4. And because then, kind of like you said, I'm not relying completely on the tests that I have, you know, land and pull for me. I mean, I am, but also I want to read this in as many translations as possible. Yeah. I want to have a deep understanding. I want to know my respiration in my soil.
Yeah.
I want to know, you know, what you're not going to find in a standard soil test. I want to learn some of these things. I've learned the value of these things.
Yeah.
And then kind of like you said, this tells me one thing, this tells me another thing. If I had only relied on one, I probably would not have used my money to the best, towards the best ROI.
Yeah.
Not unknowingly allowed or allocated dollars. But together, pairing them up, okay, now I understand why this is this way because of this over here.
Yes.
I wish a full soil test had all the different tests. You know,
well, there's companies that do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
That's how it should be headed.
Yep.
That is how agriculture should head.
Yep.
Is how do you this one and this one and this one. And then uses all that information to then give you a complete picture of things.
Yeah.
Kudos to those working on that.
Yeah.
Thank you. That is going to change agriculture on a mass scale faster than probably anything else. Is a true complete understanding of soil.
Well, and that's where, I mean, and what I mean that there's already people mashing the traditional and Haney together. Mm-hmm. I mean, Regen doesn't amazing job. They can do both for you. Okay. Midwest has soil health. Ward has soil health. I think majority of soil companies now have a soil health test of some way, shape, or form. But even like Next Level Ag up in South Dakota, I mean, there's companies doing that, and there's opportunities there. I don't know if I've ever done it on a podcast, so I'm gonna kind of deep dive how I see, like, somebody buys a new field, what am I doing for sampling?
Please do.
So this is what I've kind of coined myself, and the reason why I did that is because I'm trying to keep your best dollar spent, right? So one thing I've came to know, looking at a lot of grid samples, looking at a lot of samples. Okay, why do we grid? What nutrients are you going to variable rate based on the grid? Honestly, Josh.
That's a question?
That is a question to you. What would you variable rate based on the grid?
Knowing what I know now, nitrogen.
Okay.
If it's a corn crop.
Okay.
The other one, oh my gosh. Man, I don't variable rate much anymore.
Would you do lime if you needed it?
I would look at what proper source of calcium do I need, if I need it. And then I would look at, man, you really put me on the spot here.
Okay, I'm gonna rephrase that question. Okay. Or maybe rephrase the statement as in our macros and secondaries.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
So that's really all the information we need from our grid test.
Okay.
Okay. I know there's a lot of times that you do macros. Okay. So just for easy math and easy sampling, we're doing 2.5 acre grids. I'm just going to plan that I have a 250 acre field. So we have 100 samples that we're going to take on that field.
Okay.
Okay. 85% of those samples are just going to be, I just want NPK base sats. That's all I want. You're looking at $9.
Okay.
Okay. So those 2.5 acre grids, you're spending a bushel corn to get that information. Okay. Then you have roughly, so I got 85% done. 10% I'll do micros on. So I will randomly go throughout that field and just get micros, because what I have figured out, micros is pretty common themes. Okay. I'm not going to, more times than not. Can you variable rate zinc? Can you variable rate manganese? Yes, you can. You can. Okay. But more times than not, we're doing zinc through either a strip till or through our starter. Like, that's how we're getting our zinc.
Yeah.
Okay. If we're having a fluctuation with phosphorus, well, then more than likely we have a fluctuation with zinc anyway. Okay. So why have a dry rec if we're going to do most of that in the furrow?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if somebody tells me, like, if it comes out low, like they want a variable rate, then that changes things. We can add a zinc on it.
Sure.
Okay, but I'm just trying to think cost effectiveness. So you're talking about $9 an acre, or sorry, $9 per sample.
Yeah.
Versus $25 per sample. Okay, that's 2.3% more dollars.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're not going to use that micro information for variable rating, then we don't need it.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're not going to change stuff.
Sure.
We can use 10% of those samples and get a theme of what we need to do.
Right.
Okay, I go back to the close enough.
Yeah.
Right? And then that last 5%, I would do 5 Haneys on that 250 acre field.
Yeah.
But I'd be strategic about it. Okay, is there different practices that have been done, different crops, different soil types, different topographies? I would just choose 5 spots that are different within the field.
Representations
Yes.
of larger areas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I got a farm. I pulled one on the poor area, the medium area, kind of the standard, and then the really good spot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then pretty much right there is a cost-effective way to get a lot of information about your ground.
Sure. Oh, more than enough to start making decisions.
Yeah.
And
it's
so
it's
you're
amazing
not
once-
mismanaging.
If I have both of those tests, like I go on like percent confidence, because if I get just a traditional standard soil test, do I feel comfortable I can give good recommendations? Yeah. But on the same token, if I had a Haney on top of it, like it takes my, let's just say it was 70, and now I get a Haney test, now I feel like I'm at 85, 90. If I have a total digestible nutrients on top or a soil genome, I feel very comfortable on whatever I recommend.
I've never pulled a soil genome test.
Yeah, and it's starting to come more. There's some that help you find pathogens within your soil profile. Just expressing those things.
Can it tell chemical toxicity?
I don't know. And honestly, to tell you the truth, Josh, I know it's around. I have no idea about it.
It's newer stuff.
It's one of those things I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll learn about that next year. kind of deal.
Let this evolve. Let it fine tune in.
And honestly, though, I mean, for early adopters, what an opportunity for you. You know, maybe there's something in the game that's going to be big.
Yeah.
You know, but that's how my head thinks. If you bought a new farm today that was 250 acres to be the most the best ROI, but also to give you the data that you need to make decisions.
Yep.
Okay. 85% just macros, secondaries, and base sats. Okay. Like I said, I think it's like 950. If you want recommendations, 11.
Sure.
Okay. Then you got 10 of those samples that have micros. Then you have 5 samples that have Haney's.
Yeah.
Be strategic. You can see differences in or like where to take your Haney's. The only what if somebody's, because I've dealt with it, like it's like those spots that you have Haney's on, how are you going to get the recommendation for those numbers?
Yeah.
You know? So what I would do in that situation is when I was making my script, I'd just take the other two, average those two, and put that in the middle. Because if you're doing
Isn't that what a computer algorithm does anyway?
I mean, that's what exactly.
We get
you know
this
what
cool.
I mean?
We get this
like,
cool painted map. It's like it's just taking averages in an algorithm.
Oh, you just got me on a soapbox, Joe.
Yes.
Okay, so like I understand the importance of having those maps, and those maps look great. Mm-hmm. Every time you see red, do you think good or bad?
Bad.
Every time you see green, do you think good or bad?
Good.
Okay. Just because it's green on your map doesn't mean it's right. Just because it's red on your map doesn't mean it's wrong. A lot of times that thing is just put on a scale. Okay? Reason why I say this. Let's just talk about magnesium. Okay? In a perfect world, in Johnny Ferentz's perfect little world, anything below 11 would be red, and anything above 15 would be red.
Okay.
Everything between 11 to 15, 11 to 12 would be like dark green, like, holy Toledo's, that is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it would slowly get more yellow as you get up to 15. I have not seen a base saturation mag where the color scheme's like that. And I've tried, and I'm still trying, because at the end of the day, I want to be able to give you those maps, and you feel like you're educating yourself. Like you should be able to see a map and say, my soils need to be in XYZ zone. I don't feel like that's happening at times. I think you're getting some people are getting a map, and let's just say it's potassium. It's all green.
Right.
Is that good, or is it just because everything was above 150 parts per million?
Right.
So since it was above 150 parts per million, everything's green. Yeah, maybe you don't need potassium this year, but maybe we need to be looking at it because your potassium parts per million is higher than your mag part per million, and that's a problem.
Right. It's almost like you need, based on these maps, these are the red flags.
Yes.
And take into account that too much of a good thing could be a bad thing.
Yeah, so I do like ranges, and I'll actually manipulate the color scheme. And it does take a lot of time, and I'm not gonna lie, it's not scalable.
No.
So if you are a programmer out there and you're like, oh gosh, I know how to do that, give us a call. We would love to influence agriculture in that fashion. That fashion. But that's one of the things.
Because that would be a tremendous thing. That would be a tremendous. Think of the dollars saved just based on guys' added understanding.
Yeah.
To I did not know that too much of this. I mean, I was that guy. I'm still that guy, and I'm learning that hey, too much of this out of place is not good.
Yeah.
So therefore, green is bad.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I've been just as guilty. There's been times that it gets to crunch time, they want that map, and The computer program's already set. You said click, print. Here's your recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay, I have been guilty of that myself. I get it. I just get to I just think, gosh dang, that is an educational opportunity.
It is.
Okay. But the biggest thing is like we also got people that want to be dads, they want to do all these other factors and finding that balance.
Sure.
You know, that's one thing I try to keep that balance, but knowing that I just don't want to hand you a map and it doesn't educate you.
Sure.
I would rather talk to you on the phone for 2 hours than me spend 2 hours on a map.
How many times have we gotten grid samples or grid, the map booklet back? We flip through it and then it goes into a cabinet.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that
but
as a farmer.
It looks good.
It does look good.
You know what I mean? Like
I've got a map on that field.
For me, having a soil sampling service,
yep,
it looks pretty darn fancy for me to have Pretzer Farms, Ferentz Agronomy.
Yep.
You start scrolling through, gosh, those look good. Those look good. We talk about your plan for that year. But gosh, if that map could tell you, like using color schemes to actually paint a picture.
Sure.
And maybe that's my biggest like pet peeve right now is we got color schemes that are not painting a picture in agriculture.
You want to know one of my pet peeves?
What's that?
It's when someone makes a fertility recommendation based off of a harvest map. That irks me. Really irks me.
See, I utilize yield maps to a point of my soil samples once we've already done the grids, once we figure stuff out. Like,
It's your harvest map is your report card.
Yeah.
It's not your teaching material.
Yep.
It's not.
Yep.
And so, and there was a very large organization who was promoting that basically, okay, here's your harvest map is now the start of our plan for next year. And they'll write a script based off of it. How in the name of...
I see what you're saying, and now I know why you're pissed. I get it now.
Yeah. How can you look a farmer in the eye and tell him that the beans that were not good in that area of the field, you just need more NPK?
Yeah.
And how can you do that and sleep at night?
Yeah.
That is not how to do that.
Yep.
Now, if someone figured out how to do it, great. I don't think so. I went to the I was asked to go with a customer of that to their clinic. And at that clinic, the main talking point was that potassium is a good nutrient to add to your field. That was the topic of conversation in that class. Okay, you guys are paying how much for this? I'm probably ruffling feathers right now, but I'm like, really, you could. My 4-year-old could tell you that.
Yeah.
Now, granted, he's immersed more in agriculture than most 4-year-olds, but it's like, what are we actually teaching guys?
Yeah.
And then, okay, potassium's good. Yeah, potassium. And then, but no one talked about forms. No one talked about getting it into the plant. They just talked fertilizer's good.
And timing. I mean, timing is...
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you have high K... rabbit hole. If you have high K numbers, but you still feel like you need more K or you could see a benefit, there's actually a certain time you need to do it, period.
Yeah.
It's not just throw it out there.
Sure.
It's not in the fall. I'll tell you that much. I mean, if you already have high K numbers.
Yeah, if you want to be intentional, don't do it then. But, dude, it really upset me. This was supposed to be... If this was just some random, lunch meeting type thing. It wasn't. It was a seminar put on for advanced growers. And I don't know, it just was really frustrating to me as a guy who was fortunate enough to have talked to guys much smarter than mine, guys like you, guys like me, guys that have, real life experience of looking at things, being like, man, and just really learning to ask the right questions. And I asked the guy, the presenter, how are you making sure that your potash is potassium chloride an issue? Do you have a chloride issue in your ground already? He didn't know. He didn't know how to talk about chloride. Yeah. And that is not a bash on this guy. Mm-mm. They may have just been asked, they may have asked him just to come in and talk about some basic fertility.
Yep.
But dude, do your due diligence, man. That's your best ROI out the gate. Holy crap, just learn how to ask questions.
Yeah. Well, and
that's benefited me on my farm more than anything else. It hasn't been fertilizer, it hasn't been seed, equipment, nothing. It is just learn the right question.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, that's a huge part.
And it's free.
Yeah.
That doesn't cost a thing.
Yeah. Just because this question popped up in my head, and I'm guessing when somebody listens to this, they're going to say, well, Johnny, what do you recommend for a soil sample? Maybe they've already done grid.
Sure.
You know, what is their maintenance, so on and so forth. If I've been with the grower and I scout their fields religiously, I feel comfortable that I could pull a pretty accurate zone for them. Okay. When I do those zones, of course, it's varied. One thing that I do get excited for, and there's multiple companies. I mean, Swap Maps does a thing, Baseline Rex does a thing, but that is one, I call it like precision zones. Mm-hmm. But then you already have your variable rate maps based on the data that they get. I do really like those. And what's nice then is I get 5 zones that we can do a Haney and a traditional and get all the information we need.
Sure. Okay.
And it's going to cost you $350 on a quarter.
Yeah.
You know, so there's initial investment, just like a grid test, mm-hmm. right? But on the same token, there's sometimes I think if you just did the precision zone, coin that phrase, precision zone on that, I think there's opportunity that you could probably do it just like that too. And it's going to be relatively the same cost as a grid system that I've talked about earlier would be.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I've used harvest maps to then figure out where I want to pull Haneys from.
Yeah.
Additional Haneys. Yeah. Instead of like, all right, I'm going to pull one here, here, and here on a new field. Like, something weird's going on over here.
Yeah.
You know what I found out one time? There is no home foundation there.
Yeah. Well, there's
no NP or K that can fix slabs of concrete in the ground. Why are the beans dead in this spot?
Well, here's something crazy. So there's a grower of mine. He has a 450 acre field. Okay.
Can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
But every year, I shouldn't say every year, but most years, and you can see it in the crop, is you can see where the old county road used to be in that field.
I got one.
Yep.
I have that.
I love seeing that. Like,
it irritates the crap out of me, though, because it is okay, so they put the new highway in. There was the old highway. I farm over the old highway. Guess what's closest to the new highway? The old highway. Guess what looks like crap? The closest to the field for about 40 feet, and then it looks great. I get so sick. I want to put a sign up that says, this is the old road. So people could ask me, what's wrong with your field right there? It's like, because literally, it's a 57-acre field. It's some of the best dirt I farm. It's an amazing field, except the strip along the highway. Oh, it's so irritating. I just want to plant it to grass because people quit asking me. But
for the sake of time, I know we got to wrap up.
Yes.
One thing I'm going to add is timing of soil samples, and then we can wrap this up.
Yeah.
Okay. When it comes to the life of logistics and understanding that decisions are going to be made off of this, the answer is fall.
Fall?
With that being said,
okay,
I still think there is tremendous value. Take some in the spring. Mm-hmm. But when I say, like, if you're doing a grid sample to figure out what you're going to variable rate, fall. Just get it done. So you have a couple months to game plan, get your things going there.
Just for time aspect.
Timing.
Okay.
Yeah. But then never underestimate taking a sample at planting. Just a sample of one field just for the heck of it.
I'm proof of that, dude.
Okay. Do it at planting. Then go ahead and do it at V6 on corn. Go ahead and do it at tassel. And then one time at black layer. And just do the same field in one spot and just do a Haney test right there. You're looking at $220. Mm-hmm. It starts painting a big picture about what your plant's seeing in those times. I am literal
proof of that.
Yep.
Right over there.
Yep.
It was fascinating.
Yep.
Fascinating to watch how much your soil can change in a year. Pull from the same spot. Make sure you mark the same spot in the field. Flag it and walk out there each time. Dude, it will open your eyes. I challenge anyone. If you implement one new thing on your farm this year, it's watch a spot in the soil for an entire growing year. Fall, early spring, summer, and then post-harvest. Oh, dude, blew my mind. Gave me a much more broad understanding for how things worked and how much more variance there was. Oh, and I did nothing. Like, This is just, it's doing its thing. This isn't me applying anything. This is just watching it do its thing.
If you have low CEC soil,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be like, what is happening to my pH?
You're going to think the tests are wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, there is so much variance. But yeah,
But
it was wild.
we got to wrap up.
We do have to wrap
This was
up.
a good podcast, so enjoyed it.
It was. Thank you very much,
Yeah.
guys. I'm trying to think what Kirk always tells me to say. We got merch on the website, singularagronomics.com. He's over here just smiling away. Yeah, we got newsletters, we got blogs, we've got we got a lot.
Check out some of our products,
YouTube,
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
YouTube. We got check us out. We got, like I said, they're working so hard on getting so much good stuff on there. Products, just resources, tools, learning opportunities, things that just we've learned that we're passing on to guys. Like I said, the merch we're on YouTube, we're on all the major what's this called? Podcasts platforms.
Yeah.
TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. They're plastering it all over the place.
Yeah. Farmers helping farmers.
That's what we are. That is the mission. If I die having done nothing more than I'm a farmer helping a farmer,
We've succeeded.
that was a great goal in life.
Yeah.
So game on. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Over and out. Guys, thanks for watching the content so far. If you would like to see more, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got all the full-length podcasts, other video information, tutorials on there. Also on all the major podcast platforms and social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc. So if you like this, go ahead and check more out on all those platforms.